Hi there, and welcome to the Alberta Update, a first-hand look at what's happening in your province. I am your host, Bruce McAllister. Thank you for being with us today. It's good to be back. We've, of course, taken a break while the legislature takes a break, and the Ledge itself will reconvene coming up on Tuesday, the 24th of February, and a budget will be tabled on Thursday, the 26th. We will bring you these updates each and every week that the legislature is sitting, but we thought it would be worthy to bring you a show before the legislature convenes to tee up what's going to happen at the legislature and, of course, all the news that's happening in the province. And there are a lot of things to address. So let's begin with the Premier's State of the Province address, which was made earlier this week to Albertans. The Premier is standing by to discuss that address and all of the interesting conversations that have come out of it. Before we talk to the Premier, though, here is a clip from the address.
Good evening, my fellow Albertans. With the new budget approaching and a shifting geopolitical landscape, I wanted to take some time to speak with you about how your provincial government plans to navigate these challenges while ensuring Alberta continues to prosper. I'd like to start with the good news. The Alberta economy is once again booming. We are leading the entire country in virtually every economic category, from job growth to investment to GDP to wages. The Energy Agreement, or MOU, signed with Ottawa last year, has eliminated both the destructive oil and gas production cap and the net zero power regulations. These two victories alone have had an immediate supercharging effect on our economy. In just the last few weeks, we have had tens of billions in new projects announced, including several new AI data centers, the expansion of TMX and other pipelines headed west and south, and a final investment decision by Dow Chemicals on their multi-billion-dollar plastics facility. And that's just the start.
All right. And there is the Premier now. We will air more of those clips. Premier, you just saw one from your State of the Province address. So well viewed, so many people tuning in. I'll ask you some of the specifics. But first, I want to talk to you about finances. Because it looks like a sort of a two-pronged or two-edged sword. On one hand, big deficit. On the other hand, investments coming here like crazy still, and your heritage fund is growing. So maybe put it in context for us.
Well, I guess this is the thing. And historically, we've always been in a position where, as a growing economy, attracting more people, creating more jobs, having more businesses, our revenues would grow faster than our expenditures. And that's flipped in the last few years. Our pressure on our social programs is growing at a faster rate than our overall revenues. And then, of course, we ended up with a double whammy of the election of Donald Trump in the United States. And it's created a little bit of instability in our energy pricing. So we are accustomed to having $74 oil. It's now gone to $60. And for every dollar that we lose about $750 million in revenue. So you can imagine a $12 billion hole in our budget year over year. And then also we had 10 lost years under the Justin Trudeau government, where we had a government that was bent on keeping our oil and gas in the ground and destroying our principal industry. And the lost opportunity that happened from that, if we had had 2.5 million more barrels per day because of Northern Gateway and Energy East and Keystone XL, that would have generated $55 billion of additional GDP for the economy, and about 40% of that goes to government. So that would have gone a long way to having us address some of these budget shortfalls. One more thing I would say that's a factor, of course, which is so irritating to Albertans, is the fact that we keep on seeing equalization dollars, more money coming out of Alberta into the federal coffers, and then being distributed to places like Quebec and Manitoba and others, while we have significant concerns in dealing with social programs back here. So that's sort of the nature of the problem that we have, but I think we've got some good solutions.
Great point. Listen, I heard many at the Alberta Next panel say they don't mind paying their fair share. Subsidizing other programs, though, while we can't pay our own, is a bit of a problem. To that point, I want to segue into immigration. I'd like to ask you a few questions, but first of all, how much has the mass immigration policy of the federal government contributed to the deficit in the financial situation that Alberta is in?
Well, I think it's been pretty extraordinary. I mean, when you think about what we've experienced in Canada as a whole in the years following COVID, it was something like 6 million people who came in, which is over 30% of our total population. And historically, Alberta did not normally receive a large number of those newcomers relative to our population, but we're 12% of the population of Canada. We were getting 22% of the newcomers coming in. And it has been, we used to have a really great immigration policy under Prime Minister Stephen Harper, where we would bring in people principally as economic migrants. And that is so important because when somebody comes in as an economic migrant, they have a job and they are a taxpayer first. And then if they decide to go on to become a permanent resident and ultimately a citizen, then they bring their families over and they're able to enjoy all the social programs that we have to offer. We've had a reversal on that. We've got a number of people who have come who are not economic migrants. They may be low skill workers through the temporary foreign worker program. They may be international students, the family reunification, asylum seekers. And that's putting a lot more pressure on our social programs without the dollars to support it. So we need to get back to a more rational immigration policy. And that's part of the reason why I put forward the challenging questions that I have to Albertans. We're going to do a shift, and I want to make sure that they're on board with us in shifting to have Alberta take more authority over our immigration program for exactly those reasons.
All right. Well, to that point, I mean, we could go through the questions one by one. That would take some time. So let's do this. Would I be correct in characterizing, maybe just as you just said it, the crux of this is so that Alberta can take control of its immigration system, which it should, as opposed to the federal government, which has made such a mess of this. And you're looking for Albertans to come on board and say, yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, there's only one province who's really done this in a major way, and of course it's Quebec. They have an accord that they established in 1991 that gives them authority over the economic migrants, and so they get to attract people here based on the needs of their economy, as well as for Quebec, it's the interest of making sure that they can speak the French language. But that'd be a consideration for us too. We need to know that people who have a good job in Alberta have to be able to communicate with their fellow workers, and so English is going to be important as one of our factors. But we also know that people who come from a temporary basis often really enjoy the community that they find and want to move on a pathway to permanent citizenship. We don't have enough provincial nominees. We have a process that allows for us to give permanent resident status, but instead of where it should be, which is probably around 35,000, it's only at about 6,400. And so as a result, we have a mismatch. We're not attracting the people for the jobs that we have, and we're not able to offer that permanent status for those who have decided that they want to make this our home. So we believe that what we have seen with the federal government having mismanaged immigration to such the extent that they have, that it really is time for us to get a Quebec-style accord so that we can have that better match and get back to what the original intention of immigration was, is to make sure that it's a good fit for the person who is coming here so that they've got a means to support themselves, but also it pays back into the Alberta economy.
Premier, you've also said it's time for a reset with Ottawa. Again, something we heard over and over again as we traveled the province and listened to people as they were at the Alberta Next panel. I was at a gathering the other night, and I asked a group of people if they could name some of their newly appointed Alberta senators, and nobody could. I'm sure some could. I'm not making the point to suggest anything on the people that couldn't name them, but the point is this. We should have more say in who is appointed, and you'd like to see reform on that, on how judges are appointed, etc., so that Albertans are represented.
You know, we go through and we have legislation where time and time again we have senators elect waiting for the federal government to appoint them. It's only happened a couple of times. And I think we were well served by that process, by those who did end up ultimately going through that election and getting appointed. But we know that we currently have two senators in waiting. And those positions have been filled, as you say, by people who don't even know their name. And you have to ask the question, would they have been able to get a Democratic mandate from the people of Alberta, some of them? And I suspect with some of them, the answer is no. And so here we are, having fought this for probably 3 decades. We all remember Burt Brown and the triple E that was carved into the farmer's field. And so I'm asking people, should we continue to go through with this charade of electing senators only to have it ignored, or should we acknowledge that the Senate isn't working? It will never work. It will never be regionally balanced. It will never be equal elected effective. And so maybe it's time to abolish it as well. We don't have a Senate at the provincial level. And so maybe it doesn't make sense for us to have a Senate anymore. But I want to ask Albertans, are we prepared to do that kind of major shift and to start asking for that at the federal level? And that would prompt a constitutional discussion with our fellow premiers as well as with the federal government.
Okay, the legislature reconvenes next week. Obviously, the budget's a big part of that, but you've got an aggressive agenda. What can you say about what's coming up? What can Albertans expect?
Oh, So much. You think as you've gone in, we're almost 3.5 years in. You would think that you would run out of things to do, but we always get great ideas from the public, from stakeholders, and so we want to act on those ideas. So I think we've got something like 18 bills coming forward. And I'm going to leave it to Joseph Scow to give you an idea of what that looks like. I know that there is you have to make sure that you're doing it in the right order and the opposition is aware of what's coming. I don't want to spill the beans on any of that, but we do have don't be surprised when you see more changes to the Municipal Government Act, because we tend to have to do that every year because there's always things that come up. Don't be surprised to see that there's going to be some new red tape reduction measures. I think that Minister Dale Daly, he loves to get a bill in at least once a year and sometimes in 2 sessions. And of course, we've got the big budget. The budget will be coming down next Thursday. And then we'll be able to share more then. But I wanted people to know it is going to be a tough budget. We do have this mismatch between our revenues and the pressure on our expenditures. And we think that the measures that we're doing, the long-term measure of having the investment in the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, let's stick with that, because that will ultimately grow to $250 billion, and it will allow for us to have a new revenue stream to be able to support the ups and downs in the economy. Let's get pipelines built, because as we get new pipelines built, and as we have more investment in aerospace and defense and agri-food and forestry value added, in venture capital and tech, all of that will generate new revenues for us. And that takes a little bit of time to do. But then let's also have the honest conversation about making sure that our population is growing at a rate that Alberta taxpayers can support. And so that's what you're going to see as well reflected in the budget. And so I'll leave it to Joseph Scott to tell you a little bit more.
Premier, thank you for this. We'll talk to you again next week.
You bet. Thanks, Bruce.
Well, the Premier mentioned the House Leader. It's almost like she knew Minister Scow was up next. There he is, the Minister of Jobs, Economy, Trade, and Immigration, Joseph Scow. Good day, Minister.
Bruce, good to be with you.
Hey, we're back into session next week. It'll be a busy one, as always. What would the theme be for the Alberta government heading in?
Well, first, you're going to see the budget. That's going to be on the 26th, on the Thursday. And though we have prepositioned and talked a lot about it being a tough budget, it is one that I still think addresses the main concerns of Albertans that we've been hearing from day one of being elected, which is dealing with affordability, making sure Albertans have access to the world-class healthcare that we provide, access to schools and education and infrastructure. So it's a long list, but we're able to accomplish that goal, I think, with this budget. And I do applaud the Premier and her leadership, and also the Finance Minister for his tireless effort to get us to where we are.
Yeah, we all watched the Premier's State of the Province this week. So many challenges for Alberta, so many good things too. We'll get to some of those. Can you give us a look behind the curtain at all and tee up any of the legislation that we might see?
Yeah, I'm happy to, Bruce. So we're going to be focusing a lot on the jobs economy side from my ministry. We'll also be looking at continuing on the healthcare reform, making sure that we are getting the results we need for Albertans. So I'm really excited about that. The Premier has talked a lot about the fact that immigration across Canada has gone out of control as a result of 10 years of Trudeau's mismanagement. And so as a province, we're going to do everything we have, including what's in my mandate letter, to use legal means to get more control over Alberta's immigration and really focus in and hone in on economic migration. We have so much ahead of us, be it in construction and manufacturing, technology, agri-food. All this development is going to require a workforce that we need readily available, and we need to make sure that we have access to that right away.
Well, top of mind for a lot of people is jobs, or our jobs, and the economy. You serve a giant portfolio, really. You're Minister of Jobs, Economy, Trade, and Immigration. So what can you tell us, I guess, about Alberta's current state when it comes to jobs and the economy?
Well, if you look at the numbers year over year, it shows a trend that Alberta wins, and Alberta will continue to win going forward. Even across Canada, when we see job losses, Alberta continues to add new jobs. Every once in a while, you might see a little bit of a dip, but year over year, people go where there's opportunity. And that opportunity is right here in Alberta as a result of the measures that we've taken to cut regulation and cut taxes on business leaders and business owners. So they can do what they do best, which is create wealth and create opportunity. So jobs, they are great in Alberta, but we also want to make sure, referencing my last point about immigration, that Albertans have the first crack at jobs in Alberta.
What can you tell us about maybe what might be on the horizon for economic growth? I know you've been talking about how the jobs numbers lead the country. That's fabulous for Alberta. Is there anything on the horizon that we can get excited about that you might tip us off on?
Absolutely. The Premier and I, with Minister Lowen, just did an announcement not long ago about de Havilland and purchasing water bombers from them. They've committed to build a new water bomber manufacturing facility in Wheatland County. This is going to be a huge boost for the county and also a big job builder. When we did the announcement, it was tough to see on screen, but over to my right, there was hundreds of workers in that facility who were so excited about this purchase agreement because they knew it's sustainable job opportunities for them and job security. And this is just one example of many. We saw the defense industrialization strategy come out from the federal government just recently, which I think has a lot of good points in it. And it shows a commitment that they're going to be spending in Canada, building up our defense with the need for heightened northern security, Arctic security. Alberta is the perfect place for that investment, particularly in aerospace. We have a number of military bases that we can use and expand on. So I'm very excited about what we've announced recently, but also the future of spending in Alberta and the investment we're going to see coming forward.
Wonderful. Speaks to the diversification too, doesn't it? Really, of the economy. Minister, thanks. I know you'll be busy during session. You always are, as your ministry and as House Leader. So thanks for taking some time for us.
Of course, Bruce. Anytime. Thank you.
All right, there's Minister Joseph Scow with us on the Alberta Update. Well, we talked about off the top of the show, of course, the Premier's State of the Province address, and it has been watched by so many people. If you missed the whole thing, you can certainly find it online. But again, here are a couple of the more important clips from that State of the Province address to Albertans.
And then came Justin Trudeau's disastrous open border immigration policies, which have caused an unprecedented strain on our healthcare, education, and other social programs. In just the last 5 years of Trudeau's tenure, Alberta grew by almost 600,000 people to more than 5 million, all while Ottawa throttled our most important job-creating industries and prioritized immigration away from economic migrants and instead focused on international students, temporary workers, and asylum seekers. Adding 600,000 people in 5 years is like adding half the city of Calgary or Edmonton in 5 years. Although sustainable immigration has always been an important part of our provincial growth model, throwing the doors wide open to anyone and everyone across the globe has flooded our classrooms, emergency rooms, and social support systems with far too many people, far too quickly. I want you to know how confident I am in the judgment of Albertans on these and other delicate issues. Although there are some politicians and commentators that fear direct democracy, such as referendums, I do not. I trust the judgment of Albertans. I know that as a province, we will thoughtfully ponder, debate, and ultimately come to a wise decision on these questions that will benefit our families and our fellow Albertans for generations, just as we've always done.
All right, there's a couple of more clips from the Premier's State of the Province address, and there's a minister that has a lot of work to do with the Premier's State of the Province address and everything else that's about to happen with the sitting of the legislature. Good day, Minister Nixon.
Good to see you, Bruce. Thanks for having me on.
Well, what a portfolio, assisted living and social services, so much going on there. You announced earlier with the Premier a new assisted living navigation portal, which you described as a one-stop shop for Albertans to see the assisted living supports in the province. So clearly, very good news. How will it make it easier for seniors and families to use?
You're probably shocked, Bruce, that up until this government came into power, there was no actual control of the vacancy of our assisted living system. In fact, the government didn't even know how many units we had, where the units were located. It was being very mismanaged by Alberta Health Services, like so many other things. Where when the Premier made a decision to send the assisted living sector over to our ministry, we actually put our housing division in charge of this, and they went out, they did the work to locate all 30,000 units, put in a real-time process so we can manage vacancies and help people get to the appropriate places. And so this is now the next step of that. It's taken it in a public process so that if you are looking for what your next step will be in life, maybe you've been diagnosed with something, maybe you decide you have to downsize your home after talks with your doctor, or maybe you're caring for a family member, a parent or a grandparent that now knows they have to access the system. And so this is a very easy system that you can go into and either enter the conditions that may be taking place or where you need to go or look at what's available inside your community and then be able to take the next steps to be able to get to the appropriate place that you need.
Okay, scratch the surface there. Go ahead and walk us through how the portal works when people use it for the first time. I mean, is it user-friendly?
Very user-friendly. I mean, the instructions from the Premier to me were to Uberize it, and I think probably Airbnb is a better example. I think the Premier would say now too. And so when you go onto the system, it's very easy to use. I mean, you can either be able to fill out a simple questionnaire about what you may have had a conversation with your doctor or maybe going on in your life, or you can just go into map view and see what is exactly within whatever vicinity of your home to be able to make some decisions. It's going to continue to evolve, but it'll be very easy. In the future, you're going to actually be able to take your full application process with the government, enter it right into that computer system. It'll pop up with the 2 or 3 best choices for you and your family member, and off you go. So it's a significant step forward. And this society now, I think we all come to expect that we should have an easy way online to be able to know what services are available to us.
Absolutely. Listen, I don't have to tell you, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the growing seniors population in Alberta is going to present a lot of challenges, and then you need to be prepared for that. I would gather this framework is a part of what you're trying to put together to deal with that.
Yeah, and there's not any one thing that's going to solve that challenge, but our fast aging rate in our Western society is a challenge. Alberta is no different. And we continue to see a significant amount of people becoming seniors or moving here that are seniors that are going to need access to these services. We have a real challenge to be able to make sure that we get those services there. And as you know, Bruce, it's not just about one, we need to be able to make sure Albertans have the best opportunity to get the services they need. But if we don't fix this challenge, it's actually what's causing challenges elsewhere in the healthcare system, because we end up with mom and dad or grandparents in the wrong place. And so these measures, this is just one of them, have resulted in a 40% reduction in those waiting for continuing care inside the hospital. So that's our main goal. And a 65% reduction in wait times for people to get to continuing care in the last 5 months. So it's one tool of many the government's working on. But again, it just continues to move us forward to the Premier's goal to make sure that we have the best healthcare system in the country.
Okay, let's shift to housing. You're also the Minister of Housing. I hear we are on a hot streak.
Yes. I'm proud of the work that Alberta's done, our industry and Albertans, to make sure that we continue to lead the country when it comes to housing. This has been one of the great crises over the last 3 years. It is stabilizing across the country, but if you think back over the last couple of years, Bruce, this has been a big issue. And Alberta has been the only place that has solved it, because we bet on Albertans. We bet on our industry, and we bet on creating an environment that could allow people to be able to build homes that we then would be able to increase our supply. And we have led the country now for 2 years straight, every quarter. Last quarter was no different. We broke records. Last year, we broke records. And this quarter we're in right now is another record-breaking year. And so we just continue to break records over and over. We do expect that that'll start to slow down. But the good news is that our plan worked. And what that's resulting in is more affordable homes. And in particular, we are the only jurisdiction in the country where rent is going down 4% below the national average, which really shows, again, our conservative viewpoint. Again, betting on Albertans, creating a place that can allow industry to do their jobs pays off over top of things like rent control and other socialist policies each and every day.
Well, you might have answered it for me, but I got to ask you anyway. What's the biggest factor? It makes you wonder why more provinces aren't implementing exactly what you have.
Well, I can tell you, Bruce, with these numbers now, the other provinces are starting to call up and ask how. This is not something that can be ignored anymore, the numbers that we're talking about. And even the federal government's paying attention, going, how did Alberta pull this off? But really, at the end of the day, we invested in strategic affordable housing that we needed for things like fixed income seniors or those who are facing affordability issues. But we doubled down on removing red tape and saying, hey, let's just get out of the way and let industry and let Albertans do their job. And they created the best supply anywhere in the country, and we're pretty proud of them.
Minister, you have a lot of work on your plate, but we appreciate you taking a few minutes to join us. Have a good session. I'm sure we'll see you again as things progress.
Always a pleasure. See you soon.
All right, there's Minister Jason Nixon with us on the Alberta update. Again, Alberta is booming, certainly compared to the other provinces when it comes to housing and some of the other things that minister is working on. Well, one of the most followed up government announcements of the year is the most popular baby names in the province. Yes, every year this is one people pay a lot of attention to. This year, Noah and Olivia extend their reign for another year as the most popular names in the province. And here is a clip from that event with Alberta's Minister of Service, Alberta, and that is and red tape reduction. That is Danielle.
Each name on this list represent a family's hope, a community's future, and a brand new beginning. Last year, Alberta families welcomed more than 52,000 babies and chose 14,581 unique names. Now, to all Alberta's parents who welcomed a new bundle of joy in 2025, and to those who are expecting, my sincere congratulations. As you take the next steps in raising your family's newest addition, our government will continue working to make sure Alberta remains the best place in Canada to raise a family.
And that is it for the Alberta update this week. We'll end it right there, but we will be back, of course, every week when the Alberta legislature sits and reconvenes next week on Tuesday, and then the budget is dropped on Thursday, after which there will be a break for a week, and then they're back for the spring session. So we'll see you lots over the coming weeks. You can find us on the socials and on Rumble and on YouTube. As always, thank you for watching us. We appreciate it, and we'll see you again next time.